Welcome back, storytellers. Today we're stepping into a tale that begins with a father and son on an ordinary day, but quickly spirals into something far more mysterious and far more dangerous. It's a story of hidden secrets, unexplainable discoveries, and the kind of choices that can change lives forever. If you've ever wondered what lies just beyond the edge of the familiar, this is for you. So settle in, because by the end of this, you might find yourself questioning what you'd do if you stumbled upon something unnatural. Let's dive in. While Dennis was working on his dream car in the garage, Dennis's son Nick dramatically interrupted him. He claimed that he had found a hidden truck on the property and that there was something terrifying in it. He could clearly see that his son was frightened by what he had seen because he could barely speak. Dennis, therefore, decided to investigate it and see if his son was telling the truth. But Dennis didn't know that what was hidden in that truck would turn his life upside down. But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Due to Dennis's enormous property, it took a while to reach the truck. After they had been walking for an hour, Dennis wondered if taking the quad would have been a better option, but it was already too late now, and they were almost there according to Nick, just a few minutes, he said. Dennis then noticed some never-before-seen markings on trees as they got closer to the truck. Dennis considered that things were already pretty strange since he had never seen this. It must have been someone else's. Maybe his son Nick was telling the truth after all. When they were almost at the truck, things even got stranger. Dennis and Nick spotted a lot of trash on the side of the road. The truck was obviously hidden because it was covered with a net. If Dennis indicated that it was probably hidden for a reason, and his assumption would be confirmed just moments later. Dennis removed the net, and there it was, a hidden truck in the middle of Dennis's property. He just couldn't believe this was truly happening. This was no place for a truck because there was no road or whatsoever nearby, so how on earth did a truck end up here? So Dennis said to Nick, "Stay here, son, I'm going into the truck." So Dennis was quite frightened by the loud bang, and when he looked back, he saw Nick running away. Like shouldn't tray of Y with STF would for a spatter, I shin to Nick might have already known what was in the truck because he was so terrified. He paused for a second, taking everything in so he would know where to return to, and quickly took off after his son. Suddenly, he realized how bad his stamina was as he was already out of breath after running for a single minute. He called after his son to stop running, and finally, he was getting closer. Finally, Den grabbed his son and took him into his arms. "It's okay, Nick, just take it easy," felt Nick's body shaking, and it took a moment for the boy to calm down. Dennis told his son that they should go back and find out what was in that truck. "What have you seen in that truck?" Dennis asked Nick. Nick was stuttering and couldn't give an answer to his question. It took a while before Dennis could calm his son down, but he was calm after a while, and they walked back to the truck. Dennis and Nick walked back to the truck, and Dennis didn't lose sight of Nick because he didn't want him to run away again. It was just a few minutes to get back to the truck. After several minutes of walking, they arrived at the truck. Dennis was just really curious about what could be hidden inside that truck. But aside from that, he was also cautious since he remembered the loud bang that had just happened moments earlier. Dennis was very careful as he approached the truck because he knew he had to be alert. He looked back to see if his son was still there, and luckily he was. Dennis turned his sights back to the truck. You would finally see what was in that truck. He reached for the door handle. As soon as he was able to open the truck, a terrible scent forced Dennis to take 2 steps backward. He covered his nose with his hands as he approached the truck again, and in there he saw it and immediately gave him chills. He had never before witnessed something like this. It was a skeleton, but it wasn't just that. It held a box with a letter saying, "Never open this box. It will bring the world into great danger. Get rid of it." This is creepy, Dennis thought. However, he could hear a voice in his head telling him to open this box. Just so many questions went through Dennis's mind. Why was this skeleton protecting this box? It was like he was giving his life to protect that box. Dennis decided to leave the skeleton where it was and maybe call the police tomorrow or so. First, he wanted to know what was in that box. He decided to investigate it himself, but it was already getting late, so he told Nick that they would walk back home. He looked at Nick and saw that Nick was still frightened by the skeleton he just saw. Dennis understood that it scared him. It gave him chills himself, so why not his 8-year-old son? They finally got home, and Dennis immediately explained what had happened in the middle of the forest to his wife, Monica. Monica listened intently, and then she looked Dennis in the eye and said, "You're kidding me, right?" Just Dennis immediately said no and quickly grabbed the box to show it to Monica. Monica was startled when she saw the box with the terrifying letter on it. Dennis explains that he wanted to open the box himself, but that was instantly refused by Monica, who demanded he called the police immediately. Dennis disagreed with his wife's choice and said there might be something valuable in that box. Monica replied that they did not know what was in it, and that it could be something very dangerous given the note on the moldara. Dennis woke up early because he was too excited to finally open that box. He believed that the box might contain something extremely valuable that would make this family very rich. He went to the garage and was going to grab the box when all of a sudden it wasn't there. Dennis started searching and turned the whole garage upside down. He knew he had put it here yesterday. After searching for an hour without success, he suddenly recalled that Monica had strongly forbidden him from opening the box. Dennis quickly went to Monica and asked her where she had left the box. Monica replied that she had called her father, and that he had also indicated that they should give it to the police. So Monica took it to the police. Dennis was furious at Monica. "How can you do this?" he shouted. "I'm going to get it back." There wasn't just one. There were 6 police cars. He was about to approach the police car when everything started to go horribly wrong. They surrounded him with all of their cars, so there was nowhere for him to go. Suddenly, their door swung open, and 2 officers jumped out of each car, making it a total of 12 old officers. The police officers ran to Dennis and said, "You are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent." While Dennis and the police were on their way to the police station in the police car, he had already started attempting to interview the police officers for information. He repeatedly inquired about the box. Unfortunately, he could not get any answers from them, so he had to wait until he arrived at the police as EA police station. The right in the rest of the ride was silent, but inside his head, it wasn't silent at all. Everyone appeared to know the situation once he got to the police station. He was thrown into a cell with no one in it. "You have to wait here for a while. We will get you for questioning in an hour." Dennis was shocked to suddenly find himself in this dirty cell. After an hour of waiting, an officer eventually took him out of the cell and informed him that he would be questioned well. Dennis didn't know how to respond to the aggressive officers in the interrogation room. They acted like Dennis was a criminal and he would go to jail for years. In his first few minutes, Dennis pondered how to respond. He knew that anything he said could be used against him. A police officer constantly shouted it at Dennis, "Where did you get that box? That box is centuries old and contains a lot of danger." Dennis was not so much interested in the policeman because he was just thinking about what was inside that box. Did they already open it? The officers got the idea that Dennis didn't care about all of this and almost felt like this was its way of confessing. Dennis said he would give permission to the police officers to take a look at his property so they could find the hidden truck. This way, Dennis's story could be verified and the officers would know that he was telling the truth. The officers agreed to this condition and Dennis was returned to his cell. When Dennis returned to his cell, he couldn't stop wondering what might be in that box. He also wondered if the police had already opened it. He wanted to call Monica now more than ever. He wanted to warn her about the police coming and maybe advise her to take Nick to her grandparents. They continued to tell him they had arrived at an empty farm. "We tried ringing the doorbell and to check with your wife if it was all right. We searched the perimeter, but she wasn't home, so we went straight to the coordinates you provided and indeed found the truck with a human skeleton inside. It was a bit of a shock to hear they had found the skeleton. Deep down, he had hoped the bones would be fake. No one would ever want a dead body on their property. That could mean a court case could be needed, but that wasn't the only thing on his mind. "Okay, officers, you saw the truck, right? You know I'm telling the truth. Am I still a suspect here?" asked Dennis. The officers replied that he was no longer a suspect. They saw the truck and the skeleton, so they knew that the mysterious chest had come from that hidden truck. The officers told Dennis that they had already opened the box, which was why he got arrested, but they couldn't tell him what was inside the box. No way, Dennis thought. He had to know what was in that box, so he claimed he had the right to know because it had been found on property. Eining the agents exchanged glances before agreeing to reveal the information under one condition. Dennis was keen to know what that one requirement was. Dennis was asked to sign a document promising that everything would remain in this room. Dennis was told not to tell anyone about it. Dennis could only agree with the officers. The agents brought the paperwork inside, and Dennis signed the contract. Finally, Dennis would know what was in that box. The officers told Dennis he would be allowed to look at the contents with his own eyes, but brought Dennis to a special room and told him to wait while they grabbed something. Dennis thought they would bring him the box, but when they returned not long after, all wearing white hazmat suits, he was shocked. They brought one for Dennis too and told him to put it on. They brought Dennis to a special room and told him to wait while they grabbed something. Dennis thought they would bring him the box, but when they returned not long after, all wearing white hazmat suits, he was shocked. They brought one for Dennis too and told him to put it on, so Dennis quickly put the hazmat suit on. After that, they guided him to another door. Dennis carefully followed the police officers inside the room. One of the officers was already standing over the box, ready to open it. Dennis quickly made his way to the table, and everyone else followed. When the table was surrounded by the officers and Dennis, the officer slowly opened the box. Dennis slowly opened his eyes again and saw an insect sitting inside the box. It looked unlike anything he had ever seen before. But what could an insect like that do for damage? "I can see your confusion," one of the officers suddenly said, "but this is no ordinary insect. This insect is infected with various diseases, and if it were to be let loose, a huge health crisis would begin." Dennis gasped. He quickly took a step backward and bumped into an officer. He had seen enough and wanted to leave the room as soon as possible to go home. Soon after Dennis was released from jail, he raced home, where he hugged his wife and son tight plates. The police took a few more days to clear out the truck and tow it away, but after that, Dennis was happy to never be involved in such a situation ever again. The end.